Good day to you. We are on the road, so there with the music, and there's the other studio sound effects. It's just me and all my non-glory. Yes, and my neck looks like I shaved with a steak knife this morning. I don't know why. This stuff happens. I don't understand the whole world of beautification, strata, whatever. But anyhow, good day to you. It is June 29th. Is it June 29th? I should check the calendar right before we start, but yeah, welcome all to you. We are, as you can see, we are talking about more water in Genesis. We briefly went over the Eric, Dean, and Aaron. Man, the saints have marched in. This is great. Yeah, more water. We're going to talk about the physics and the geological and the hydrological aspects of the flood today. And we've got some visuals that we're going to do them my way. It's totally no tech, low tech, yo tech, bro tech, no tech. When my wife is here, she does it very awesomely. But yeah, we want to welcome. Oh, Aaron says this topic is making me thirsty. Well, like they would say when they would sit by the Galilee and tell exaggerated stories, I could drink the whole Sea of Galilee right now. I'm so thirsty. Yeah, water, water, water. I love water. The more time you spend in water and being near water, and you could be near you can be near a waterfall. And being near a waterfall makes you more healthy. Did you know that? Something happens with the water colliding with each other, and it gives off, what's the word, ions or something. Yeah, water is health and life. Remember, the earth was made on the water and in the water. So to do a cutaway of the earth, and I'm not going to explain that whole thing, but you've got the liquid iron center, which is lava hot, and that's what lava coming up is. It's coming up out of the middle of the earth. There's a fissure that comes up all the way down to the surface. But you have the iron center, then you have crust, but closer to the surface is a layer of water. Then there's the earth that we stand on, also the ocean floor. If you drill down underneath the ocean floor, there's another layer of water in there. It was much thicker before the flood, but core, crust, water, land, water, earth, whatever part of the world you're on, you can see, and then there's sky, and there's water above. So there's 3 layers of water, and that causes the insulation. I mean, the middle of the earth is, if there wasn't an iron core at the middle that's liquid iron, which creates the gravity, we would fly off the earth, because the earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, and it's traveling thousands of miles per hour faster, because we do a full circle around the sun in a year, and this is getting too scientific. So anyhow, back to the water and the flood. And, it says in Genesis 6, when men began to increase in number on the earth, you have the sons of God and the daughters of men. They were beautiful, they're married, and God says, my spirit will not contend with man forever, for he is mortal. His days will be 120 years. And he's saying this back when Noah had 450 years more to live. He was only 500 years into his life. But anyhow, but get this, and this is a part about Noah that we want to strive for. It says in 6:9, this is the account of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked with God. When you walk with God, you walk right. When you talk with God, you talk right. When you live with God, you live right. Adam, he's righteous, he's blameless, he walked with God. And hello, Nina, you want to live your life in a way so that this is said. We want to live our lives like this. And just a quick thing that I learned years ago from a scientist. they talk about, well, how did man first learn to talk? And they say, well, there's the bow wow theory and the poo theory, and the ancient man used to grunt. There never was that era. Adam talked with God. And it says it right in Genesis 2. Adam talked with God. God talked with Adam. Therefore, Adam learned how to talk. He talked to Eve. Eve talked to God. God talked to Eve. We have more record of him talking to Adam, and it is brief verses, but that's the entire giveaway. We talk because we're talked to. What is our language called? It's called our mother tongue, because our mother talks to us first, and our mother talks to us. And before we say one word, we already know 200 words. We have a vocabulary of 200 before we say mama. My wife's first word she ever used was book. And she's a great reader to this day. It's funny. I mean, I think my first word was cookie. I don't know, but Adam talked with God, and that's how he learned to talk. And every now and then you hear one of these horrible stories on the news where someone had diabolical parents, and they were locked in a closet. And this child gets discovered when they're 13 or 14. If a child comes to the age of 12, and then 13 for sure, and they were just locked in a closet, and the last one, this is terrible. People should not be allowed to have children. I wish God would sterilize people like this so they wouldn't have children. But they locked their daughter in a closet, and she got discovered at 11 or something like that, and she was below animal status. But if someone is not talked to at all come 12 years of age, they will never learn how to talk. Their mind has cemented, and communication is not possible, and it never will be possible. Adam, so if we never had talked to God, then nobody on earth would be able to communicate. It'd be just like whales. We just make sounds, but we were talked to by our mothers. Our mother was talked to by their mothers. Clear back to Adam. Adam talked to God. Adam knew how to talk. Adam was intelligent beyond intelligent. He named all the animals. Just the brilliance of these guys. The brilliance of Noah and his sons to make this ark, when this had never been done before, they talked to God. Ben Carson, one of the most intelligent men alive on the face of the earth today, the best brain surgeon ever. He has said, people are, well, how do you do this? How do you know this stuff? You've done stuff that's never even written in textbooks before. He says, and we've met Ben Carson. What a genius guy. He said I would come to each phase of the brain surgery and I'd go, God, what do I do now? Thank you, God. And do the next thing. Come to another fork in the road. God, what do I do now? How did Noah and his sons make this ark? They talked to God. God talked to them. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight and full of violence. God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people on earth had corrupted their ways. We are put in dominion in Adam's day. And now, because we are corrupt, because we disobey, people think they're being so creative when they disobey. No, they're not. They're being diabolical. How long do you last in the military if you can't do what you're told? Out you go, and out you go fast. Well, Adam and Eve disobeyed. You've got to leave the garden because you'll eat from the tree. You've eaten from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And then once you eat from the tree of life, you will live forever, and all you will do is multiply evil and evil and evil. And these lifespans are 900 years long. We have a lot of guys living 900 years back then. Well, if they never died, what if all the dirtbags in Noah's day were still alive? Can you imagine how refined their sense of evil would be after being alive for 45 centuries? Oh my goodness, they would be good at evil. Really good at evil. That's a strange sentence. That's really a strange sentence. I would like to say hi to all these people, but there's something on here that covers your name. So hi, all of you folks, and Anna and Christy. Hope you're on there too. And tell your Aunt Kelly we want to see her too. Okay, wife comes up and is doing something. Yes, Elisa. Good to see you too. Michael Kuipers has his coffee. That's great. So Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. That's what the King James says. So God tells him to make an ark, and the King James says gopher wood. The NIV says cypress wood. The Hebrew is not really clear exactly what kind of wood it is. Ron Hirsch in San Francisco, dude, you rock! Holding your own there in the city. And now, Ron, you're a Giants fan, right? No, a Dodger fan? No, you like the Oakland A's across the bays. He tells him to make this of the wood, and he tells him the dimensions, and he tells him the height and the width. How did Noah make this ark? God just told him. How does Ben Carson do these brilliant brain surgeries? God just tells him. Revelation does far more than education. Please keep that in your mind. God, show me. You can learn more in 10 seconds after saying that sentence. God, show me. God, just tell me. You can learn more in 10 seconds than you can learn in 10 years in libraries. We have to read, we have to study, but I'm telling you, if you do education without revelation, which is what the pagan system is all about today, and that's why these kids get all educated and then they leave college and they burn their cities down. Yay! Isn't that dumb? Well, some of our politicians sit back and clap while this happens. Revelation is more than education. God just told Noah how to make this ark. Make it 450 feet by 75 feet wide by 45 feet high. And let me give you there's a little scale here on this. By the way, we're doing this, and I thank you, Aaron. Aaron, you are such a gem, and I have this is book 1. I have book 2 and book 3, and I have them with me. But here's a dimension to show you what it's like. Here's to scale. Now, these to scale things blow my mind. Can you see?
Well, you're going just so fast.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold it still there.
Look at the size of the ark in comparison to the elephants and giraffes that are walking up to the ark. The immensity of this thing is like, oh my word. This had never been done before. Shipbuilding cultures, Greek, Rome, the Phoenicians did this. Shipbuilding took a long time, and the ship that Jonah is on when he's running from God, it's something that they'd worked on for centuries, and they refined it, and they got it to float and stay upright this way. Every ocean liner on Earth today is made to the scale of Noah's Ark. There is no improving on that design. Did you know that? What God told Noah how to make this ark is the dimensions that are followed today. That is the best design to make a ship and have it not capsize. The ark could withstand a 200-foot tall tidal wave, and it wouldn't capsize. This thing about the Poseidon Adventure, the ship that flipped upside down, that was a movie when I was a kid. There was all these disaster movies about, oh, the ships are going to flip over, oh, the airplanes are going to run the building, oh, the tall building is going to catch on fire, we're all going to burn, we're all going to smash, we're all going to drown. I got tired of this stuff. Can't we just watch Oakland Raider games or something fun? Okay, but anyhow, the dimensions of this ship are followed to this day. Why? Because there's no improving on what God just told us would be the best way to make a ship. And it says, make a roof for it and finish the ark to within 18 inches of the top. So you have this ark. There's no HVAC in there. We just have thermals and the air movement from the BTUs of the animals. And then there's an 18-inch 18-inch, all right, like it's an 18-inch vent opening all along the top. So the ark is just under, right around 3% vent. So for every, we'll talk in terms of a sheet of plywood, which is 32 square feet. For every 32 square feet, we have about a 10-inch by 10-inch square foot opening worth. The thermals of the people and the animal, they didn't start a fire on the ark to stay warm. They just stayed warm because of the warmth of the animals. Well, how does it get too hot? Well, that's just exactly the right amount of vent that's needed to let fresh air in, to let the stale air and the heat out, and the exiting of the warm air pulls in new cool air, and the venting on the ark was perfect. They can't launch this ark once the floodwaters start and they go, oh, it's too hot, oh, it's too cold, because then things can't rest and things can't get warm and things start freezing to death and animals start dying, and it's a big mess. But none of that happened because they did exactly. So after Noah finishes building this ark, it's time to take on enough food for a year and take on the animals. Verse 17, I'm going to bring floodwaters on the earth to destroy all life under the heavens. And I used to think, when I was growing up, oh, we'll see the animals on the ground are going to die, but the birds, they'll be all right. Well, no, the birds, birds fly for a bit, then they've got to rest. Well, there's no place to rest. So all the birds died too. Was the curse not on the fish? Well, believe me, when the fountains of the deep break forth and you've got these massive tidal waves that are slamming and reshaping the west coast of the U.S. and the east coast and Asia and the Asian interior getting slammed up, and Everest was, I'll get to that in just a second. The fish aren't going, well, aren't we out for a nice swim today? It's pretty chaotic under the earth too, but it's time to take the animals. 6:19, you are to bring into the ark 2 of all living creatures, male and female, to keep them alive with you. 2 of every kind of bird, of every kind of animal, and every kind of creature that moves along the ground. They will come to you to be kept alive. They didn't do a big zoo catching thing. I think it was Evan Almighty was done, and it shows this amazing CGI of all these animals coming in. That's what happened. Animals just do what they're told. The whales migrate to Maui every winter, and they go back to Alaska every summer and go up over a barrow and go on around. 30,000 bow whales swim by barrow every spring and every fall. And then they go on down south. The humpbacks go here and some go to Baja. And, they don't check their email. They just do what God tells them to do. The animals obey. So God says, okay, all of you just come to the ark. And it's not a big zoo catching thing. They just obeyed the Lord. And so they went. And it says of every clean animal, and this may have missed you, every clean animal takes 7. Of every clean bird takes 7. Well, the kosher laws weren't going to be written down for another 1,000 years, but Noah had documents. Noah had documents on the ark, and I believe that Noah had the book of Job on the ark. I think, I'm not sure. This is written anywhere. Nobody knows when Job was written. But there's a dinosaur described in the book of Job in chapter 40. An Apatosaurus is described to the T. Fully described. An Apatosaurus, dinosaurs died 55 million years ago. Really? Then why do we have human accounts of dinosaurs? There were dinosaurs on the ark. God is right. The Bible's right. Charles Darwin, when he wrote The Origin of the Feces, he's just guessing. He is guessing. He doesn't know what he's talking about, and it's an intelligent book, but it's not accurate. There's a lot of intelligent people who are really wrong. I'm going to leave it, but this is another timeline thing that makes my head spin. In Genesis 6:22, Noah did everything just as God commanded. So for the beginning, all of Genesis 6, we have the impending flood described, the evil and the activity on the earth described, and Noah's character and his family's described, and the making of the ark. He's talking about it. Look at this. Genesis 6:22. Noah did everything just as God commanded. Did you know that verse 22, Genesis 6:22, that one verse is over a century long? One verse. I stop and I think, my goodness. From Matthew 1:1, when the birth of Jesus, the genealogy of Jesus is starting to be described. In Luke 1, the beginning of the era of Christ, the AD era, is starting. From there to the end of Revelation, the entire New Testament is 95 years. This one verse, Genesis 6:22, is over a century. One verse, a century. It's so easy to forget some of this stuff. I mean, from leaving Eden to now is 15. The starting of the building of the ark is 1,500 years. The century is the New Testament is 95 years long. This one verse is over a century. Noah did everything just as God commanded, and this is why he lived. He doesn't get creative and go, well, God, I mean, the vent up top and the gopher, put pitch on everything inside and out. And I love this, Noah was 600 years old, 7:6. Noah was 600 years old when the floodwaters came on the earth. Now, God is talking about it, but it hasn't happened yet. And Noah and his sons, Aaron, you rock, man, I love it. He's 600 years when he goes, and in the 600th year, 6:11, in the 600th year of Noah's life, on the 17th day of the second month, this is February 17th. Let's just use our calendar. I can't talk all these ancient calendar things and then compare the matching, blah, 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 too much talk. February 17th, using our calendar, that's when the floods and the floodgates of the heavens burst open, and the springs of the great deep burst forth. There was pure water underneath the earth. It wasn't salt water, and that busts open, and these fountains come to the surface and create these massive tidal waves that go in all directions, and the line cracking on the ocean floor. We had to give them all to a school because we couldn't. We had a big roll of maps, and we just couldn't handle the moving anymore. And we gave them to a school. But the cracks on the floor of the ocean are an exact match of the west coast, the mountain ranges of the earth, because these tidal waves break forth, and they go, and water just slams land and the coastal range of the western U.S. And these mountains go from Alaska, go down to western Canada. They get the Canadian Rockies, and we've got the Cascade Range, and we've got the coastal range. These things were slammed into place by these fountains of the deep breaking forth. It's amazing. There was an excavation team in Lompoc. I don't know if I said this on Friday or if I said it, because I'm speaking 7 times in a row here. We're in Vancouver, and I don't know if I already said this to you or to the other people. But there's a fossilized whale that is slammed against a hillside north of Southern California, and a fossilized blue whale is straight up and down like this. The fish didn't have a good time with this flood either. Like, oh, the birds and the breathing animals, they all die, but the fish get to live. Well, it wasn't a lovely little Sunday swim. A fossilized whale is vertically slammed against this hill, and then more dirt. There he is. And this thing fossilizes. And things fossilize in a century or less. People think, oh, these fossils are billions and billions of years old. Fossilized cowboy boots are found out in Arizona and Utah. Fossilized cowboy hats are found. Those are 160 years old, max. There weren't big cowboy hats in early America. They wore the triangle hats because they wanted to be mindful of the Trinity. The Pilgrims wore these things. The French wore these. The British wore these. They wanted to be mindful of God and the Trinity. So they have a three-point hat. Then you have all hats and the fedoras. But they went out west. They need more sun protection, so they make these big brim hats to keep the sun off you. Because if you don't have a hat, it's going to kill you out west. It will. The sun kills you sooner, and we have tougher. So they had bigger hats. Well, fossilized cowboy hats are found. They're not billions and billions of years. Pardon me for being so mocking, but every time I hear this billions and billions stuff, it's a massive distraction. People, oh, don't believe Genesis. Believe the billions and billions. Well, the billions is hogwash. I'll talk about that in an episode. Anyhow, the floodwaters come, the fountains of the deep break forth. And how much water is this? I mentioned this on Friday. How much water do we have on Earth? If you had, the Pacific is 5 miles deep, the Atlantic is 2 miles deep. I'm not going to give you a tour of the whole ocean floor here, but if you, here's the terrain of the Earth. If you pulled it all straight, and all of the Earth on Earth, dirt on Earth, was ocean floor, the oceans would be 8,800 feet deep. If all the oceans, but we have the Mariana Trench, the trench north of Puerto Rico. We have these, and again, the Pacific's 5 miles deep, 6 miles deep in places, 7 miles deep in one place, and it's about 2 miles deep. But if that was all pulled straight, the water would be 88, about 1.5 miles deep, all over the Earth. And if the Earth was shrunk to a globe, in proportion, the amount of water on that globe that would comprise all the oceans is 1 tablespoon of water. It's 1/2000th of the Earth is the water. That water makes all the oxygen we need. Well, that water flooded everything, and when it says the fountains of the deep broke forth, and I told you these tidal waves made these mountain ranges that we see today. When you have a tidal wave that's 1,000 feet high coming at 500 miles per hour, it can slam Earth and leave it in a condition like this. And it calcifies in place. Well, if it was billions and billions, well, you had forces coming in, layering. And no, it was slammed into place. The markings of the flood are all over the world. At the top of Everest, there are fossilized clams, starfish, lobster, shellfish. At the top of the Grand Canyon, where the elevation is over 8,000 feet, we have oceanic crustacean fossils in place at the top of the Grand Canyon, 8,000 feet above sea level, because that used to be underwater. And you go to the Grand Canyon today, you will not get a Christian explanation of anything. These people with the ranger hats on, they're trained by the government. Now, billions and billions of years ago, the Grand Canyon was made in 48 hours. There, I said it. And my science teacher's going to give me an F, and I don't care. But this is how it happened. The flood rose until the top of the mountains, top of the highest mountain at the time, and there was not a mountain over 8,000 feet high back then. What you have is you have these tidal waves, and they're slamming stuff into place, and then it calcifies this way. And you see these all over the Earth. You see them all throughout the West. I drove across the country again this year, and you see these markings. But when the plates break open, and then it just shoves them open, on the other end of the plate, you have plates collide, and they make new mountains. Everest was made after, during, and following the flood. Everest is still creeping upward, by the way, from Noah's flood. because the other end of the plate was shoved open when the fountains of the deep broke forth. That is all encased in this verse here. This is fascinating stuff. And it says the ark came to rest on the 17th day of the 7th month. That was July 17th, 2400 BC. The waters continued to recede until the 10th month, and on the first day of the 10th month, the tops of the mountains became visible again. That is October 1st, 2400 BC. We don't have to go, golly, when and how and who to do. God just tells us. And it says the ground was dry on February 27th, 2399 BC. Noah is now 601 years old. God promises to never flood the earth again. And 8, then Noah removed the covering from the ark and saw that the surface of the ground was dry. They opened the door. And by the way, when they shut that door, it says God shut that door. If that door is a ramp so the animals can walk up, elephants, rhinoceroses, walking up this thing is a big, heavy door. So it says God shut it. Noah can't reach. Well, one of you go outside and shove it shut. Well, then how do you get back on the ark? God shut the door. I should have said that 10 minutes ago. At the end, never again will I curse the ground because of man, even though every inclination of his heart is evil from childhood. I've talked to, and we'll end with this, I've talked to child psychologists who say there comes a point when every child realizes that he has a dilemma. Yes or no. Do what I'm told or do what I want. And 100% of all babies tell their dad and mom, no. Come over here. No. Get back in. Don't hit them with that rattle. No. It's programmed in from childhood. Anyhow, call on Christ and this can be reversed like that. The Holy Spirit comes over you and we become agents who, like Noah, we walk with God. And as we call on Christ, we become blameless. And as we live our lives, we talk with God just as Noah and the boys were guided through the ark building process with no experience, no textbooks, no training. They didn't go to navigation or boat building school. They just talked with God. God said, do this. And they said, good, we will do exactly what you say. You want a triumphant life? This is how it happens. You have a fantastic day, and we'll see you tomorrow.